and your blood sugar is still high this morning. Why? You skipped the dessert, you took your medication, you even went for a walk after dinner. And yet, you wake up, you check that number, and there it is. High. Again. For no reason you can figure out. If that morning frustration sounds like your life, you need to hear what I'm about to tell you. There is a single mineral, one that most doctors never test for, that is directly involved in whether or not your cells can even respond to insulin. Nearly half of all Americans aren't getting enough of it. And the group that's hit the hardest is adults over 60. But here's the part that should genuinely concern you. Later in this video, I'm going to show you how a medication that almost every diabetic in America takes, a pill you probably swallowed this morning with your coffee, is actively draining this mineral from your body. Day after day, year after year, and nobody is telling you about it. When I first came across that research, it bothered me. Because this is the kind of thing someone should have told you a long time ago. But we'll get to that. First, let me explain what this mineral is, what it actually does inside your body, and why it matters more than almost anything else when it comes to your blood sugar. The mineral is magnesium. Now, before you think, "Oh, I've heard of magnesium, that's for muscle cramps." Hold on. What magnesium does for blood sugar is something most people have never been told. And it goes far deeper than cramps or sore legs. Here's how your body is supposed to work. You eat food. Your body breaks it down into glucose. That's sugar. That sugar enters your bloodstream, and your pancreas releases insulin. Think of insulin as a key. It travels to your cells, fits into a lock on the surface called an insulin receptor, and opens the door so glucose can get inside. That's how your cells get energy. Simple enough. But what happens when that lock is broken? The key shows up. Insulin is right there, doing its job, trying to open the door. But the lock won't turn. The door stays shut. The glucose has nowhere to go, so it stays in your blood. Your pancreas panics, pumps out more and more insulin, trying harder and harder. But it doesn't matter, because the lock itself is the problem. That is insulin resistance. And that is the engine that drives type 2 diabetes. So here's the question that almost nobody thinks to ask. What makes that lock work in the first place? Magnesium. Magnesium is required for a specific process on your insulin receptors that allows them to recognize and respond to insulin properly. Without enough of it, those receptors malfunction. The lock breaks. And no amount of insulin, whether your body makes it or you inject it, can fully compensate for a lock that doesn't work. This isn't some fringe idea. This is established science. Researchers have confirmed that magnesium acts as a cofactor for over 800 different enzymes in the human body. 800. It is the fourth most abundant mineral in your entire body. And it is absolutely essential for how your cells process energy and respond to insulin. But here's where it gets real. Let me tell you what happened in one particular study. A team of researchers recruited a group of type 2 diabetic patients. They didn't change their medications, didn't change their diets, didn't change their exercise habits. The only thing they did was give them 250 milligrams of magnesium per day. A simple supplement. That's it. After 3 months, they measured the results. Hemoglobin, A1C, the number your doctor uses to judge your long-term blood sugar control, dropped from 8.32 down to 7.96. Their insulin resistance score, a measurement called HOMA-IR, fell from 6.16, all the way down to 4.44. Let that sink in for a moment. A meaningful, measurable improvement in blood sugar control. Not from a new drug, not from a procedure, not from some extreme diet. From a mineral that costs a few cents per day. And that wasn't an isolated result. When researchers pooled together 24 separate controlled studies, hundreds of patients, across multiple countries, they found that the optimal dose was around 280 milligrams per day, taken consistently for about 4 months. That's the point where improvements became clear and reliable. So the obvious question is, if magnesium is this important, why are so many people running on empty? And this is where the story gets frustrating. National nutrition surveys show that roughly 48% of Americans, nearly half the entire country, consume less magnesium from food than their bodies require. But when you look specifically at older adults, the numbers get worse, much worse. Men over 71 are the single highest risk group for magnesium deficiency in the entire United States. Women between 51 and 70 consume an average of just 246 milligrams per day, when the estimated requirement is 265. Every day, they fall short, and nobody says a word. Why? Part of it is biology. As you age, your intestines become less efficient at absorbing magnesium from food. Your kidneys may excrete more of it. And if you have any chronic health conditions, which most people over 60 do, those conditions further drain your stores. But that's only part of the story. Remember earlier, when I said a common medication is making this problem worse? Here it comes. And I need you to really hear this. Metformin. It is the most widely prescribed diabetes medication on the planet. There's a very good chance it's in your medicine cabinet right now. And a study of geriatric outpatients, people over 65, found that metformin use was associated with a 2.3 times higher rate of low magnesium levels. I want to say that one more time. People taking metformin were more than twice as likely to be magnesium deficient. The medication your doctor prescribed to help your blood sugar may be quietly depleting the very mineral your body needs most to manage your blood sugar. Now, I am not telling you to stop taking metformin. That decision belongs to you and your doctor. But I am telling you that this connection exists. It is published in peer-reviewed medical research. And almost nobody is connecting these dots for you. And it doesn't end there. Proton pump inhibitors, you might know them as Omeprazole, Prilosec, Nexium, Lansoprazole. These are the pills that tens of millions of Americans take for acid reflux and heartburn. That same study found these medications were linked to 1.8 times higher rates of low magnesium. They suppress stomach acid, and in doing so, they suppress your ability to absorb magnesium from the food you eat. So let me paint the full picture for you, because I think when you see it all laid out, it becomes very hard to ignore. You're 68 years old. You take metformin for your diabetes. You take omeprazole for your stomach. You eat a normal American diet, which is already low in magnesium. Your aging body absorbs less than it used to. and 2 of your daily medications are actively pulling whatever magnesium you do have right out of your system. Every single day, you fall a little further behind, and then you sit across from your doctor, and they look at your A1C, and they say, "We might need to increase your dosage." Or worse, "I think it's time we talk about insulin." And at no point, did anyone stop to check your magnesium. You know why? Because magnesium is not part of a standard blood panel. It's not in your routine checkup. It's not in your metabolic panel. Your doctor tests your glucose, your A1C, your cholesterol, your kidneys, but almost never your magnesium. And even when they do test it, the standard blood test, serum magnesium, only measures the tiny fraction floating in your blood. Less than 1% of your total magnesium is in your blood. The other 99% is inside your cells and your bones, where it actually does its work. So you could get a normal result on paper and still be severely deficient where it actually matters. Researchers have a name for this. They call it subclinical magnesium deficiency. No dramatic symptoms, no alarm bells, just a quiet, invisible shortage that slowly erodes your insulin sensitivity. Year after year, while everyone looks the other way. So, what do you actually do about it? Now, I'm not a doctor, and nothing in this video replaces your doctor's advice. But what I can do is walk you through what the research says, so that the next time you sit in that office, you know exactly what to ask for. If you're going to supplement with magnesium, and I think the evidence makes a very compelling case that you should at least discuss it with your doctor. The type you choose matters more than most people realize. The cheapest form you'll find at the drugstore is magnesium oxide. It's in those big bottles on the bottom shelf. And here's the truth about it. Your body barely absorbs any of it. Most of it passes right through your digestive tract without ever reaching your cells. The forms that showed the best absorption in studies include magnesium citrate, magnesium glycinate, and magnesium malate. Among these, magnesium glycinate is the one that comes up most often in research involving older adults. And there's a good reason for that. Glycinate means the magnesium is bonded to an amino acid called glycine. Glycine has its own benefits. It promotes relaxation, calms the nervous system, and supports sleep quality. So with glycinate, you're getting a 2-for-1 deal. The magnesium gets absorbed efficiently and gently, no stomach cramps, no running to the bathroom, and the glycine helps you sleep better at night. And here's a connection that most people miss entirely. Poor sleep directly worsens insulin resistance. Multiple studies have confirmed this. So by sleeping better, you're actually improving your blood sugar at the same time. Instead of a vicious cycle dragging you down, you create a virtuous cycle pulling you up. In the clinical trials that showed the strongest results, participants typically took between 200 and 400 milligrams per day, usually starting at the lower end and gradually increasing. Most studies had participants take it with a meal, which appeared to improve absorption and reduce any stomach discomfort. One important thing the research consistently flags: people with kidney disease need to be especially careful with magnesium supplementation. The kidneys are responsible for filtering excess magnesium, and if they're not functioning well, levels can build up. That's something worth discussing with a doctor before making any changes. Now, if you're still watching at this point, you're already ahead of most people, because the majority click away before they get to what I'm about to share. And honestly, what's coming next might be the most useful part of this entire video. Because magnesium is the foundation, but there are two more minerals that work alongside it. And when you understand how they fit together, the full picture clicks into place. The first one is chromium, and I'll be upfront with you. This one is controversial. Some researchers are enthusiastic about it, others are skeptical. So I'm going to give you both sides and let you make your own decision. Chromium is a trace mineral, meaning your body needs it in very small amounts. But those small amounts matter. If magnesium fixes the broken lock on your cell door, think of chromium as the oil that keeps the hinges moving smoothly. It enhances how efficiently insulin does its job, so your body can accomplish more with less. Here's why this matters for you specifically. Research has shown that chromium levels in the body decline significantly with age. One large study that tracked chromium across more than 40,000 people found that levels dropped by 25 to 40% from young adulthood into old age. And the standard American diet, heavy on refined grains, processed foods, and simple sugars, makes it worse. These foods are not only low in chromium, they actually cause your body to excrete more of it. So decade after decade, you take in less and you lose more. Now, the results from clinical trials are interesting. One of the most well-known studies gave chromium picolinate to diabetic patients for 4 months. The group taking 1,000 micrograms daily saw their A1C drop from 8.5 all the way down to 6.6. The placebo group? No change whatsoever. That's a dramatic result. But here's where I want to be straight with you, because I think honesty matters more than hype. Not every study has shown results that strong. A meta-analysis of multiple trials found that chromium can reduce A1C to a meaningful degree, but doesn't always move fasting blood glucose consistently. Some studies showed big improvements, others showed modest ones, and a few showed very little effect at all. So what does that tell us? In my reading of the evidence, chromium helps most when you're actually deficient. If your levels are already adequate, more won't do much. But given that your levels have almost certainly been declining for decades, and your diet is working against you, there's a reasonable chance you could benefit. It's not a miracle, but in the studies that showed positive results, participants were typically taking between 200 and 1,000 micrograms per day, almost always in the form of chromium picolinate, which appeared to be the best absorbed version. And at that dose range, the risk of side effects was very low across the board. Now, the third mineral, and I saved this one for last because, in some ways, it's the most fascinating. Because this one goes straight to the source of the problem. Not your cells, not your blood, your pancreas. Zinc. Most people associate zinc with fighting off colds. But zinc plays a role in blood sugar that is far more fundamental and far more important than most people realize. Deep inside your pancreas, there are tiny specialized cells called beta cells. These are the factories that manufacture insulin. And inside those factories, there's a specific piece of machinery, a protein called Zt8 that is essential for assembling, packaging, storing, and releasing insulin properly. Without enough zinc, that machinery breaks down. Your beta cells can still try to make insulin, but it's like running a factory when you've run out of a critical raw material. The equipment is there, the workers are there, but they can't build the finished product. Studies have consistently found that people with type 2 diabetes have substantially lower zinc levels than people without the disease. One study compared 200 diabetic patients to nearly 200 healthy controls. The diabetic group averaged zinc levels around 67 micrograms per deciliter. The healthy group, 83. That's a significant gap. And within the diabetic group, those with the lowest zinc had the worst A1C readings. The pattern is clear, consistent, and hard to ignore. And here's the cruel twist that makes this especially frustrating. Diabetes itself depletes zinc. When your blood sugar runs chronically high, your kidneys excrete more zinc through your urine. So the disease makes the deficiency worse, and the deficiency makes the disease worse. It's a downward spiral that keeps tightening and tightening, until someone has the sense to check your levels and break the cycle. A comprehensive review that combined 14 clinical trials, nearly 900 patients, found that zinc supplementation reduced fasting blood glucose by an average of about 28 milligrams per deciliter, lowered A1C by approximately half a percentage point, and improved insulin resistance scores in a meaningful way. In the trials that measured the best outcomes, participants were typically supplementing with 15 to 30 milligrams of elemental zinc per day, most commonly in the form of zinc gluconate or zinc picolinate, both of which showed good absorption rates. One thing that came up repeatedly in the research: zinc and magnesium can compete for absorption when taken at the same time. So, in many of these studies, they were given at different times of day, one in the morning and one in the evening, to get the most out of both. Now, before I wrap this up, there's one more thing I haven't mentioned yet, and it might be the most practical piece of advice in this entire video. You don't need a single supplement to start improving your mineral status today. You can start with food, right now, tonight even. For magnesium, spinach, pumpkin seeds, almonds, avocado, and dark chocolate. The real kind, 70% cocoa or higher. For chromium, broccoli, green beans, mushrooms, and whole grains. For zinc, beef, chickpeas, pumpkin seeds again. Those little seeds are absolute nutritional powerhouses. And oysters, which are the single richest food source of zinc on the planet. And here's something interesting. Something as simple as a small handful of pumpkin seeds and 1 cup of cooked spinach, eaten daily, covers a surprising amount of ground for both magnesium and zinc. No prescription required, no doctor's appointment needed. Just a small, quiet change to your plate that your body will notice. All right, let me bring this all together. If you've been struggling with blood sugar that just won't come down, if you've been waking up every morning frustrated and confused by numbers that don't make sense, I want you to consider something. The problem might not be your discipline. It might not be your willpower. It might not be that you need another medication or a stricter diet. It might be that your body is missing the raw materials it needs to process sugar properly. And nobody in all these years ever thought to check. Magnesium fixes the lock that lets insulin do its job. Without it, insulin resistance gets worse, no matter what else you do, and nearly half the country is deficient, with older adults hit the hardest, and common medications making it worse. Chromium helps the insulin you do have work more efficiently, and your levels have been quietly declining for decades. Zinc is essential for your pancreas to manufacture insulin in the first place. And diabetes itself is stealing it from you faster than you can replace it. These aren't exotic or expensive supplements. They're basic, fundamental minerals that your body was designed to use. And the research? Dozens of studies, thousands of patients, consistently points in the same direction. Correcting these deficiencies can meaningfully improve blood sugar control. But please, bring this up with your doctor. Print this information out if you need to. Ask them whether it makes sense to check your magnesium levels. Ask about your zinc status. Ask whether chromium is something worth looking into for your situation. The research is there. The questions are clear. And the best outcomes happen when you and your doctor explore this together. Here's what I know for certain. Most people will never hear this from their doctor. Not because their doctor doesn't care, but because the system isn't set up to connect these dots. 15-minute appointments, standardized blood panels, protocol-driven care. Nobody has the time to sit down and explain that the metformin you take every morning might be quietly draining the magnesium your body desperately needs. But now, you know, you have information that most people simply don't have. And that puts you in a position to do something about it. The question is, what are you going to do with it? If someone you care about is fighting this same battle, a husband, a wife, a parent, a friend, send them this video. Not because I want views, but because sometimes the most important thing you can do for someone you love is give them the right question to ask. And now, you have it. Thank you for your time today. Take care of yourself.